What does self-defense actually mean? That is what we are going to talk about in this video, and this is from a criminal defense attorney. My name is Veronica. I am a criminal defense attorney here in Los Angeles, and I help people who have been arrested put their criminal cases behind them so that they can enjoy their lives and their freedom. And again, in this video, we are going to be talking about what is actually self-defense. I'm a California licensed attorney. I can only tell you what the law is here, although I have practiced law also in Illinois, and that is where I went to law school. Some of these things are somewhat universal, but this isn't legal advice to anyone. Anyway, self-defense in California is defined as the defendant, so you, reasonably believed that you were in imminent danger of suffering bodily injury or being touched unlawfully. So that's number one. Number two, you reasonably believed that immediate use of force was necessary to defend against that danger. And number three, you used no more force than was reasonably necessary to defend against that danger. Okay, so I think hearing this stuff, I think we know that this shit was written by judges who have never been in a bar fight, probably never been in any sort of physical altercation whatsoever. Don't really realize that in the moment when you only have a second, less than a second sometimes, to figure these things out, it can be very difficult. And one of the problems with all of this is that ultimately, let's say that you and somebody else get into a bar fight, whatever kind of fight, we'll just say a bar fight though. You get into a fight and the other person is injured. The cops come. Maybe you're injured too. The cops come and they decide, you know what, I'm going to arrest you. I'm going to take him to the hospital. What is going to happen is then there's this, at this point, he's probably totally off the hook, and you may or may not be. Once you're arrested, then the police report is given to the DA's office, and I have many videos on what happens between the police writing the police report and the DA actually filing charges. But what will ultimately happen is that there's going to be somebody else who has to figure out some of these words and whether they apply to your situation. So, reasonably believed. Now, you may think, well, yeah, for sure, I reasonably believe that I was in imminent danger of suffering great bodily harm, injury, or death. But actually, in law school, we learn, and I had never, ever heard this before, so you may not have. We learn about the reasonable man. So this is the man who's of ordinary prudence, judgment. I don't know who he is. I don't think I've ever met him. But basically, eventually, someone, it's going to be the DA, the judge, and then maybe a jury who have to decide that were your actions those that somebody who would be a reasonable man would also take. Would your beliefs be something that this reasonable man, this phantom reasonable man, would also have? If you think that sounds scary, it's because it does sound scary. It is scary, because you have all of this is subjective. All of this is subjective. So, I can think of a time, and I know the statute of limitations has passed on it, so I can mention now. When I was in college, I was at this, I don't know, I think his name is Girl Talk. It's this DJ who does these mashups. We went to this, all my friends, we went to this show, right? And everybody's crowd, at one point he says, everybody can come on the stage. I wasn't trying to get on the stage, but it means that the crowd is kind of crushing us. Everybody's being pushed into each other. Everybody's dancing. There are probably mosh pits. I don't know. At one point, this girl got mad at me for being pushed into her and hit me on the head. And so my instinct immediately was, I'm going to hit her on the head too. I'm not going to keep doing anything. I'm not going to keep beating her. Is that self-defense? I actually don't know, because was she going to keep hitting me in the head? Probably not. What would a reasonable man think in that situation? Right? At this girl talk show, people are like pushing against the reasonable man. Who knows? And all of this is to say, I mean, I'm telling you what self-defense is. And if you're looking this up, you're probably wondering or wanting a very clear definition of here is the bright line. And here is what is self-defense, and here's what's not. But we don't have that. It is all subjective. So, I've actually had clients before, very smart clients, who looked up what is self-defense, when can I take physical action against someone on behalf of my own self or my family members, when can I not, and think it's black and white. And that's not how it is, and that doesn't go over very well in court at all. It's really, how all of this is written, I don't know how else it really could be written, but it makes it very difficult to figure out how to defend yourself. Myself, at this point, I'm a little bit afraid of defending myself with all that I know, with all the people I've seen who are charged with crimes that, frankly, were self-defense, but even if you eventually win at a jury trial, if you spend a year of your life in jail, to me, that's scary. I don't want to spend a year of my life in jail if I can possibly help it. So if you had to spend all of that time waiting until you got to trial, that is, frankly, terrifying. Anyway, I hope that this video helps. I hope that this educates you somewhat on self-defense. I know that, again, I wish that it was just a very clear rule that I could just teach you all. But there really isn't. And this is California. Maybe it is different in some other places, but probably not. So check your local laws, but also be really careful, because, frankly, none of us are reasonable men. If you do have a case in California, you need help, feel free to give me a call. You can find my number down below. You can also book a consultation with me directly right down below via the link.